Dopo domani, piano piano, live in the moment, the slow life. The only thing that's guaranteed is today. There are so many proverbs, expressions, and even stereotypes linked to life in Italy, especially here in the south, that seem to glamorize this concept of short-term thinking. Now, as much as I like this concept, and I have indeed adopted it into certain aspects of my life, there is a fundamental problem if you live your life entirely focused on the short term. Now, you could say this video is art imitating life because it's actually based on an experience that I had at the weekend when I returned back to Palermo for a wedding, which was absolutely beautiful, full of love, emotion, and of course, lots of food. But we had an experience just before the wedding that really inspired today's video because my boyfriend's sister and I went to get our hair and makeup done for the wedding. Now, we started off bright and early, 9 a.m. Saturday morning at the hairdressing salon that I used to frequent when I lived in Palermo, having been recommended it by my boyfriend's sister, who is a long-term client of that salon. So we were sat there with our phones in hand with the photograph of the hairstyles that we wanted. Now, I have to be honest, they did an amazing job of my hair. I was over the moon. However, sadly, the same cannot be said for my boyfriend's sister. She has very fine hair, and whilst they were attempting to replicate the hairstyle that she wanted, she kept telling them that she wasn't happy, it wasn't looking the same, but they kept reassuring her, don't worry, it's okay, wait until the end. Now, sadly, what I think has happened is that the hairstyle that she wanted perhaps wasn't suitable for her hair type, but rather than being honest and communicating that at the start, they've proceeded to try to force this hairstyle on her rather than trying to do something that perhaps might have been more suitable for her hair. Now, it meant, sadly, that she wasn't able to leave with a finished hairstyle. We were really pressed for time. We had to go to a different venue to get our makeup done. And as such, she ended up with just this hair full of like loose, slightly messy curls because she had to take the hairstyle out because it just ended up being an absolute disaster. Now, naturally, she was a little bit upset and she was crying a little bit and speaking with the owner, who she knows well. Now, let's just talk about the slap in the face. And the reason why short-term thinking can be so damaging is that the owner, having just spoken with her, having just comforted her, having just seen my boyfriend's sister crying, then proceeded to charge her for the blow dry. Now, this was 20 euros. So we're not talking about, an extortionate sum of money, but it's the principle. Your hairdressers have not delivered on a service. It has meant that she does not have a hairstyle for a wedding that she has to go to in a few hours' time, and you are still charging her for the blow dry. Now, where this is a classic example of short-term thinking is that in that moment, that hairdressing salon were only thinking of the products that have been used, the time spent by the hairdressers, and the fact that we have taken the place of other paying clients. But where was the long-term thinking? My boyfriend's sister is a loyal customer to that salon. She has been going for some time. She brought them more business in the form of me and maybe other people too. And no doubt, if she decides to go back, she will continue to return back to that salon in the future. The 20 euros that you don't charge her in that moment, you will easily make back in the future through future visits, but you will leave your clients feeling a little bit better about the terrible experience they've just had. But to charge someone, even though you haven't delivered what you were meant to, and you have made the person very upset, is just shocking. I'm sorry, I have to be honest. And so this inspired the video today because I was like, this is the problem with short-term thinking. People do not think about the long-term consequences of their actions right here in the moment. And it's not just through customer service, which, let's be honest, can be a bit hit and miss in Italy. In fact, I recorded a video about some of the shocking customer service moments I've experienced. I'll link it up here if you want to go and have a look. But it can also extend to people's just overall ambition and drive for life. Now, I have to be honest with you, I've spoken about this in other videos, but there are many people here who do not really have any long-term goals. If you ask them a question, which I often do in my English conversation classes, what their long-term goals are, you often hear things like, oh, I don't know, not sure. It's a problem for them to think about what it is that they want to do in their life. And classic example I had an English lesson a few months ago, and the question was something like, name 5 things you want to do in your lifetime. And somebody literally said to me, go for a walk in the countryside. 5 things you want to do in your lifetime. We're talking big, audacious goals. And you talk about going for a walk in the countryside that you can do at the weekend. Is this is what you're dealing with here. There is this mindset in this country sometimes of people living quite closed lives, especially in the South, because they don't open themselves up to the long-term plans, goals and objectives that they want to achieve. Now, I think that this is evident also in education. You have people here, as I've spoken about in this podcast episode, who are literally trapped in the education system. They do degree upon degree upon degree because they have no idea what they want to do in the future, or they believe that having multiple degrees is going to give them some kind of an advantage, only to then graduate from university and be met with the stark reality of the fact that the employer also wants experience. So it's this, you've got to be thinking long term. As much as living in the moment can work in some aspects of your life, especially when you're dealing with difficulties here, because it's a way to ground yourself and to have appreciation and gratitude for where you are right now. And it's a way to make yourself feel a little bit more relaxed. I think the danger is when people stay stuck there. Your life is like sitting in the driver's seat of a car. If you don't have a destination, if you don't have a map, if you don't know where you're going, you're just driving aimlessly. You're not able to understand if you're really making progress or you're really growing or evolving. You are essentially just driving around, wasting petrol or diesel with no real aim or purpose to your life. And I think this is why sometimes people get stuck in a trap and their lives look the same year upon year upon year, because they haven't really put much thought into what they want to do in their future. Now, this is not to say that everyone in Italy has this mindset. This is just through my own personal observations and experiences that I've had here in the south of Italy, I should say. But I will say there is definitely a problem with this. If you plan to move to Italy and you plan to live in Italy for a number of years, you have to start thinking long term, even when you've just arrived, because I know what it's like. Trust me from first-hand experience, you get stuck in the moment, getting everything organised, getting your life set up, making those connections, sorting out your bureaucracy. It's all around the here and now. But if you get stuck in the here and now, and it's very easy to do because slowly but surely the culture kind of influences you, creeps up on you, you start saying dopodomani, when you might have said, I'll do it now. You've got to think about your long-term future. What does your work situation look like? What are you going to do if you plan to retire here? What does your kind of lifestyle look like 5 years from now? Are you able to progress with your career in the way that you might have wanted, or whatever your objectives are when you move to this country? Are you headed on that path? Because otherwise, if you don't think about that, you will end up noticing how quickly the years go by and how maybe you haven't achieved or experienced as much of life that you might have wanted. Now, I noticed a couple of comments on a recent post I put on my community tab of people encouraging me to travel more. And I have to be honest with you, it is on my list of things to do. But here is where I have been stuck very much in this trap, because I work full time. And of course, on top of that, we moved to cities this year, and I'm also trying to have a life as well. And so it's not so simple just to pack up a bag and travel across Italy every single week. And let's be honest, it requires organisation and money as well. So it takes time to organise these things, but long-term thinking, this is on my list of things to do. I do intend to travel across Italy. This channel is not a travel vlog. It's not a travel channel for all of Italy. I'm building a life in South Italy, so I'm always sharing with you my experiences about where I am and the region that I live in. However, it is important for me to explore all of Italy, absolutely, and it's something that I intend to do. But it's interesting how we can make excuses just to stay stuck in the present and not to take action for the future. And it's interesting that that came up around the same time that I was thinking about doing this video. So it's this. Let this video be a kind of reminder, if you like, that you need to start thinking more long term with the things that you want to do in your life, the way that you want your life to be here in Italy, the objectives and goals you might have. And even if you have a business or you work here, the consequences, the long-term consequences of your actions now in the present, because trust me, there are always consequences. I see it in my job as an English teacher. I see those long-term consequences. In the moment, I'm working, but I'm always one eye ahead, thinking about the service, thinking about what I'm doing with my students, thinking about the support I can give them. And you realize later on how important it was to have that long-term thinking and not just to be stuck in this day by day mentality. So tell me what you think. Do you buy into this live in the present moment mentality, or are you somebody who's a bit more of a long-term thinker, or a bit hybrid like me, a little bit of both? Let me know below in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and watch this one here, because I dive a bit more into long-term life here in South Italy and the different stages you'll go through. So this is why you've got to always be thinking ahead. I will see you in the next video.